It all began on a seemingly perfect afternoon, where the sun lays lazily in the sky, shimmering on the surface of my pool like 1,000 tiny stars. My dream house, nestled just outside the Pine Grove subdivision, was a hidden gem I had fought tooth and nail to claim. With an expansive backyard and an in-ground pool, it was my personal paradise, until the tranquility shattered, as it often does in life. I floated on my pool lounger, lost in the rhythmic sound of water lapping against the sides, when a high-pitched voice sliced through my serene escape. "Excuse me! Excuse me!" The panicked cries pierced my bliss like a blaring alarm clock, jolting me upright. There she was, Karen Wilson, the self-appointed enforcer of neighborhood rules. Decked out in designer workout gear that seemed more suited for a fashion show than a back-alley confrontation, she looked like someone who believed the universe conspired to enforce her will. "Oh no," I muttered to myself, rolling my eyes as she waved her arms like a conductor coaxing a symphony. "What fresh nonsense is this? Can I help you?" I shot back with barely contained amusement, arms crossed defiantly, settling back into my lounger. "You need to clear out of this pool immediately. It's a private pool for Pine Grove residents only." Her voice dripped with a mixture of entitlement and fervor, as if she were warding off an invading army. I chuckled, hardly taking her seriously. "This is my private pool, in my private yard. Why don't you check your maps before declaring war?" With a haughty toss of her hair, she declared, "I'm Karen Wilson, the president of the Pine Grove Homeowners Association, and you're trespassing." My laughter bubbled over, free and loud, filling the air with a sense of defiance. "Oh, is that supposed to scare me? This house isn't even part of your HOA. I bought it last month, and I'm pretty sure it predates your little fiefdom." Karen's expression morphed into a mask of disbelief and anger. "I'll call the police," she spat, fingers trembling as she pulled out her phone. "Do it," I replied, my heart racing with the thrill of the impending showdown. After all, this wasn't just about the pool. It was about declaring my independence from her bureaucracy of oppression. Moments later, 2 police cars rolled up in a shiny show of authority, revealing Officer Martinez and Officer Thompson, who walked toward us with an air of incredulity. While Karen rapidly spilled her embellished tale of my nefarious behavior, I merely stood back, arms folded, confident in the stack of documents I had prepared. As I presented my case to the officers, the tension alone could have split the air, electrifying the otherwise quiet neighborhood. This was my turf, my sanctuary, and I wasn't going down without a fight. Finally, the moment arrived. Officer Thompson turned to Karen, whose expression was tinged with dread. "This property isn't part of the Pine Grove HOA," he declared, the final nail in her tall tale's coffin. Her face twisted in a riot of disbelief and rage, transforming her from a well-groomed president into an irrational child throwing a tantrum. But I could see the storm brewing in her eyes. She wasn't just going to slink away quietly. As I watched her storm off, fury radiating from her like heat off black asphalt, I sensed something dark lingering in the shadows. This wouldn't end here. She was a woman scorned and driven by an insatiable hunger for control. In the wake of that day's confrontation, as the sun dipped low in the horizon, casting a golden light over my pool, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Each ripple of water seemed to foretell the chaos yet to come, a storm brewing just out of view. Little did I know, this was only the first act in a twisted play where I had unwittingly become the main character, and Karen was drafting the next scene in her unwarranted reign of terror. In the wake of that day's confrontation, as the sun dipped low in the horizon, casting a golden light over my pool, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Each ripple of water seemed to foretell the chaos yet to come, a storm brewing just out of view. Little did I know, this was only the first act in a twisted play where I had unwittingly become the main character, and Karen was drafting the next scene in her unwarranted reign of terror. The following days were an odd combination of tranquility and underlying tension. My neighbors, a few of whom had witnessed the drama unfold, began to approach me with curiosity mixed with excitement. They shared knowing glances and hushed whispers, as if we were conspirators in an unspoken rivalry. I couldn't help but snicker at the unfolding popularity of my predicament. It was as if I'd unwittingly stepped into a soap opera, where the stakes were both ridiculous and high. Yet, even with this newfound attention, I felt a gnawing sense of anticipation. It lingered in the corners of my mind, a nagging reminder that Karen was not the type to be easily deterred. I kept my phone close, half expecting her to retaliate with a flurry of emails or another ridiculous complaint meant to undermine my sense of peace. Then she struck. I received a certified letter from Pine Grove HOA, a tightly condensed, authoritative missive filled with admonishments about pool regulations that I had supposedly violated. The language was laced with faux concern for community aesthetics, but its true intent emerged clear. Karen was on the offensive, and she wasn't going down without a fight. As I read through the demand about removing my beloved pool or granting access to all residents, my heart raced with a mix of anger and disbelief. Fire erupted in my chest, igniting my resolve to stand my ground against Karen's absurd power play. I promptly forwarded the letter to my real estate lawyer, Sarah Chan, who wasted no time calling me back. Her contagious laughter echoed through the receiver. "They have absolutely no legal standing," she assured me, her tone animated. "Do you want me to send them a cease and desist letter?" "Yes, please. And make sure you include something about harassment and how they clearly don't understand property lines," I replied, realizing more than ever that Karen was testing the waters. When Sarah's letter reached the HOA, another board meeting was summoned, frenetic energy buzzing through the community like a live wire. Tom, one of my newer neighbors and a member of the HOA board, stopped by to fill me in on the chaos that ensued. "You won't believe the scene," he said excitedly, leaning on my porch railing. Karen had been ranting about my illegal pool for weeks. He told me, furious that others were siding with me rather than adhering to her twisted version of rules. She had even gone so far as to plan a community party at my pool, under the auspices of welcoming me to the neighborhood, without checking its legitimacy first. Recognition flashed through me like a spotlight. I could practically see the gears turning in Karen's mind, ever determined to utilize a perceived power to manipulate the narrative. But when the HOA lawyer confirmed the separation of my property, Karen's demeanor shifted dramatically. According to Tom, she imploded, hurling accusations and threatening to fire board members who dared to contradict her whims. As I leaned back in my chair, absorbing this information, I felt a laugh bubbling in my throat. The absurdity of the spectacle was unmistakable, a well-scripted drama where the antagonist was slowly losing her grip on reality. Karen's theatrics were becoming more transparent, and the rising tide of discontent in the community reflected that. The weeks that followed were quieter. Tension hung in the air, but everyone waited, almost breathless, for the next chapter of this strange saga. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to prepare for whatever Karen had plotted next. I stocked up on security cameras and fortified my resolve. This pool was non-negotiable territory. Then, one sunny Wednesday afternoon as I worked from home, I was jolted out of my concentration by laughter echoing from outside. I darted to the patio to investigate, my heart racing as I approached the glass doors. There, to my utter disbelief, stood Karen, leading a gaggle of women into my backyard, brandishing pool noodles and beach bowls. It was practically a scene from a farcical comedy. "What do you think you're doing?" I yelled, stepping onto my back patio, disbelief twisted with fury. "Oh, we're just having our weekly ladies' water aerobics class," she announced, confidence dripping from her words as if her assertion alone could justify her actions. "My pool is private property. Get out, now!" I yelled, dread lacing through my gut as I reached for my phone to call the police. Already, I could hear the distant, familiar hum of sirens approaching, and exhilaration coursed through me. "Stop being difficult." Karen waved dismissively to me. We all agreed this would be our community space. The women she had dragged along looked visibly uncomfortable, whispering amongst themselves, glancing nervously at my fierce resolve. One finally stepped forward, a flicker of doubt flashing across her face. "Karen, you told us this was a new community pool." I could see the realization dawning on her, crackling through the space. The titters of laughter turned into uncertain murmurs, as if the truth was unraveling before their eyes. Then came the moment of pure, cinematic chaos. Karen attempted to unlock my pool equipment shed with a warped key she had pulled from her pocket. It was madness unfolding before me. I rushed forward as a screwdriver glinted menacingly in the sunlight, inching ever closer to my property, a threat wrapped in the guise of a neighborhood welcome. The police arrived just as I shouted for her to step away from the shed. Officers Martinez and Thompson, with their voices gruff yet calm, controlled the situation, witnessing firsthand the absurdity that Karen had brought to my doorstep. The astonished faces of the ladies served not as witnesses to an illegal pool party, but rather as a testament to Karen's bizarre vendetta against me. Are you attempting to breach this property? Officer Thompson asked, a note of disbelief lacing his tone. Reality started to settle in, and Karen's face morphed through various shades of red as she began to realize the precarious tightrope she was walking. With a swift series of orders, the officers turned the tables, instructing her to leave my property. My heart surged with a mixture of victory and disbelief. This confrontation was being documented, the evidence gathering around us like storm clouds ready to burst. The tides were shifting once more, and I could feel it. All this chaos. This wasn't an end, but merely a turning point. And for every disrupted moment, I knew there lay an even greater confrontation waiting just out of reach. The tides were shifting once more, and I could feel it. All this chaos. This wasn't an end, but merely a turning point. And for every disrupted moment, I knew there lay an even greater confrontation waiting just out of reach. As Karen fumed, the officers escorted her away, her rancorous protest trailing off into the distance like a fading siren. A mix of relief and adrenaline coursed through me, but it was short-lived as I returned to my back patio, glancing at the small gathering of Karen's once enthusiastic supporters who now looked torn between disbelief and embarrassment. "Thank you for stopping her." One of them finally spoke up, her voice shaking slightly as she glanced at her shoes. I had no idea she was going to take matters this far. I offered a half-hearted smile, unsure of what else to say. The disillusionment painted across their faces was palpable, a reflection of Karen's misshapen reality. I appreciate your understanding, but honestly, she's gone too far. It's just a pool, yet she's made it feel like a battleground. A woman named Sarah stepped forward, her bright eyes filled with remorse. I really thought she was looking out for the community. I never imagined she'd stoop to this level. "Welcome to Pine Grove," I said dryly, finding that I could almost muster a laugh. It seems every neighborhood has their drama queen. As they dispersed, shaking their heads and murmuring about the absurdity of it all, a strange wave of camaraderie washed over me. The invisible wall that Karen had constructed around herself began to crumble. I felt a flicker of hope that I wasn't alone in this fight. This community wasn't completely under her grasp. Later that night, as I settled on my couch with a glass of wine and the surreal events of the day replayed in my mind, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah Chan, my lawyer. She had sent a text with a hint of excitement. "I spoke with a few contacts today. I think the laugh's going to be on Karen before this is all over." Intrigued, I replied and quickly set up a call. When we spoke, she explained, "The homeowners in your area are frustrated with Karen and her antics. They want to organize a community meeting to address the issues she's caused. We could turn public opinion in your favor and make sure the HOA operates on current laws rather than whim." That spark of hope ignited into a flame in my chest. What do you mean by turn public opinion? There's strength in numbers. If we get enough people on your side, we can officially rally against her. If she's making these bizarre claims and potentially breaching community guidelines, we'll make sure the lawyers know it. "What's the plan?" I asked, feeling an exhilarating mixture of nerves and excitement coursing through me. "We need to get you in touch with the right people. Once we have a meeting scheduled, I can help draft petition and even promote it through social media. Let's put the work in and show them how the community can operate without her theatrics." Before I knew it, I was rallying coffee meetups, inviting neighbors over for casual discussions about the state of Pine Grove and how we could band together against the chaos Karen's chaotic regime. Slowly, the people began to speak out. The same ladies who had once flocked to Karen's side began to filter into my backyard, coffee mugs in hand, sharing their own stories of frustrations. "She told me my roses were too tall," one neighbor named Rebecca remarked, fashioning a messy bun atop her head. "Well, she threatened to call the cops on me for my kids playing with a frisbee in the yard." Another chimed in, adding to the growing chorus of discontentment. The once quiet murmurs about Karen turned into vigorous discussions, with each neighbor airing out either their grievances or their support of my stand against her. The energy shifted and transformed, charging the very air in my backyard as it took on the vibrant spirit of resistance. Our growing unity solidified into something almost tangible, yet the exhilaration was tinged with worry. I knew Karen wouldn't let go of her grasp that easily. She was a predator, and I could sense she was on the hunt, ready to pounce the moment she felt a weakness in our formation. In the middle of our third coffee gathering, a sudden commotion drew everyone's attention toward the street. Karen stood at the curb, arms crossed defiantly, her entourage of HOA board members flanking her like stormtroopers. "Is this what you all call a community meeting?" she shouted, her voice dripping with disdain. "Gathering in someone's backyard? How quaint. Just remember, I'm still the president of this HOA. Not for long, Karen." I shouted back, adrenaline rushing through my veins. "You can't control others with your harassment tactics anymore. People see you for who you really are." The crowd behind me swelled with renewed energy, echoing murmurs of agreement. For the first time since I had moved, I felt like I belonged to this community, a community ready to sever the strings of Karen's puppeteering. "Keep your distance," Karen cried. But it was too late. Our chants rose, breaking the air with a chorus of a simple truth. Asterisk, asterisk, we stand united. Asterisk, asterisk. In that electrifying moment, I recognized the power of solidarity. We were more than neighbors now. We were allies, standing against a tempest of entitlement that had threatened to swallow us whole. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting a warm glow over our gathering, I knew we were poised for an epic fight against Karen, and this was just the beginning of our story. The tides were shifting once more, and I could feel it. All this chaos. This wasn't an end, but merely a turning point. And for every disrupted moment, I knew there lay an even greater confrontation waiting just out of reach. Days turned into a blur as the aftermath of that chaotic afternoon settled like a fog over Pine Grove. Karen's eyes simmered just out of sight, and despite the fleeting reprieve, I could sense her plotting once again. I became hyper-aware of the sounds around me, whispers from neighbors exchanging knowing glances, searching for comfort in shared laughter, as if our neighborhood had morphed into a reality show filled with dramatic twists and accusations. To my surprise, word spread further than I anticipated. My phone buzzed with messages from friends and family, each enjoying the tale of my epic clash against the HOA Queen Bee. I could practically hear their amused chuckles as they lent me their support, but deep inside, I braced myself for round two. Then came the ominous knock on my door just shy of dusk one Wednesday evening. I can never really describe that feeling, like an intruding gust of wind shattering the calm. My heart raced as I approached, ready for whatever storm awaited me. Opening the door revealed not one, but 3 members of the HOA board, all wearing expressions that balanced concern with a hint of embarrassment. Tom stood at the forefront, his brow creased with unease, flanked by a petite woman with striking purple glasses and a gentleman holding a clipboard. "Hi, we need to talk," Tom began, his tone more tentative than usual. "It's about Karen. Should I be concerned?" I replied dryly, crossing my arms, not willing to be cowed by the oddly formal setup they presented. "We didn't expect her to escalate things quite this far," the woman in glasses interjected. "But she's making claims that could affect all of us. You have to understand, it's causing quite a stir in the community. Is she saying the pool is community property again?" My voice dripped with sardonic humor, but deep down I could tell Karen's attempt to manipulate the narrative were gaining momentum. "Not exactly," Tom replied hesitantly. "She's arguing that having a community gathering that constitutes a legitimate use of your property as a common space. She has that angle. And it's giving her leverage," the gentleman added, flipping through pages of forms. "She's gathering signatures for a petition to review your property's status with the city. If it gains traction, we could face major headaches." My stomach knotted as I processed this threat. I thought I bought my house, not a reality show plot twist. What's a petition supposed to achieve? What authority does she think she has? She believes that making the pool a communal space will benefit everyone, including her. The woman adjusted her glasses, glancing at Tom with worry. "But it's not legal, and we know that. We just want to warn you. She's spreading misinformation, and it could escalate into a larger conflict." I chuckled bitterly, attempting to dispel some of the mounting tension. "And what's the plan? Are we going to send her a graded response letter like we're in middle school?" "If only it were that simple." Tom sighed, his features softening. But here's the thing. This situation is affecting us all. We need to gather evidence to counter her claims and learn to work as a community instead of falling into this divisive circus. As they spoke, ideas began to cascade through my mind, knitting together a potential response, a way to reclaim my narrative and unite our neighbors. Karen's chaos was ripe for conversion. This was my chance to rally the support I had unwittingly gathered during her antics. "I'll call a neighborhood meeting," I declared, suddenly invigorated by the prospect. "We can share stories, pool our resources, and remind everyone what community really means. We can take back our space from her overreach." Tom nodded enthusiastically while the other two exchanged glances, their apprehension shifting to cautious optimism. "That's a great idea," Tom said. "The more people know what's really happening, the better equipped we'll be to fight against her theatrics." With a plan taking shape, I organized a meeting for the following weekend. Each evening leading up to it buzzed with preparation. My home transformed into a war room. Paperwork sprawled across my dining table and colorful flyers took shape, thoughtfully crafted to attract attention and encourage engagement. As Saturday approached, I sensed a palpable energy shift in the neighborhood. Invitations were distributed in person, and the buzz of a grassroots campaign rippled through the block. Children played in the yards while adults congregated with laughter, and suddenly Pine Grove felt more united than it had before, drawn together by a common purpose. When the day of a meeting finally arrived, my heart raced at the sight of neighbors trickling through my front door, single mothers, retirees, young families, and everyone in between. They found their seats, eyes alight with determination, like little spark plugs, bursting with energy and vulnerability alike. I hadn't expected such an overwhelming show of support, and in that moment, I understood community was more than just geography. It was a collective soul driven to protect what belonged to them. I stood at the front, inhaling deeply, and smiled at the sea of familiar faces. Thank you all for coming. We're at a crossroads, and it's time we take a stand together. Karen thinks she can bully us with her outrageous claims, but we're stronger than that. The cheers that erupted were electric, binding us in a shared defiance, a united force against the absurdity of her actions. I outlined our strategy, emphasizing the importance of supporting one another while dispelling the misinformation Karen was spreading. One by one, stories emerged, each one a testament to the fabric of our community. People shared their experiences with Karen, the neighborhood's frustrations, and the joy that came from our ability to lift each other when times got tough. As laughter and camaraderie filled my living room, I felt a fire igniting within me. We were done being quiet. When the crowd began to thin, we brainstormed together for a plan of action. Momentum was building, but I could sense something lurking in the background. Karen was still out there, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. This would be a battle, a fight not just for my property or my personal space, but for every single person in this community unified under one banner. That thought ignited a determination in me. We would reclaim our narrative, and together we would stand tall.